Okay, Dr. Golda, are you?
You see me?
I
Here I
see
am.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we are going to be talking about the psychosomatic defense system.
Yeah. And I think that what has come before me has really kind of shown parts of what I want to talk about today. And um, just briefly looking at our times, and I've spent a few months kind of going, okay, so let's understand this on multiple dimensions. And I wear several hats. So my background is 50 years in expressive art therapy, but I also have been a clinician of nutrition and other medicines. So I've been in the industry my whole life, and I think at this point I understand a little bit. I think there is so much more to learn. And even in looking at the defense system, because I've had several people approach me and say, well, what is the solution? And as you go into what is the defense system and all of the self-healing mechanisms that already live inside of us, as well as all the wonderful remedies that as natural practitioners we have to assess and understand our unique biochemistry. We really need to look at all kind of this, what we call the psychological overlay, because I think in this time, these natural innate defense mechanisms of our immune systems are on full alert, and we need like really practical tools. So like Joe said, and the other providers before me, uh, we can't separate the mind and the body, and we can't separate the body, the soul, and the spirit. So we have to look at the whole person and really look at the self-healing mechanisms that live inside us that enable us to regenerate. And now more than ever, we really need to look at how to reduce the stress in all the different systems. So I thought, like, just for a big picture, just so we can kind of have an orientation, I would give you a brief overview, because I know our time is limited, and please let me know when we're 5 minutes. And I don't have to cover everything I prepared, but I'm definitely available to working ongoingly with this team, both to validate the data and as well as to create future systems for healing on a global level. And I sense that that's what the mission of this group will be. So we need to empower everyone with these tools. If we're speaking of empowerment, we need to give people the tools to empower themselves, both individually and then collectively. And there are lots of ways to do that. So I'm just going to start with, from the research I've been doing on the defense system. Uh, everybody's talking about immunity, and we know that that's key to protecting ourselves from this new virus. But when you look at the defense system, and most of you who have been with Canna World know that we created the Jade Health platform to really begin to look at all these systems and provide a clinical as well as governmental regulations, so we can kind of like start to really create an integrative system of medicine for plant-based medicine. So coming from that perspective, we begin to look at the heart and the blood system. And there's a lot of research now on angiogenesis, as well as the soul side of that, which is looking at the rhythmic system. So it's really looking at the breath and the heart and the lungs, and really beginning to look at the rhythm in your life and how it aligns with the rhythms in nature. So blood is really, we all read the blood differently, and with our current abilities with genetics and epigenetics, we could go really deeply into the biochemistry of the blood, which many of the doctors are doing, to be able to begin to see how that blood system is regenerating. And then we look at the immune system, and the immune system is now expanding into two new systems that have been defined. And one is the interstitial fluids. So that's the fluid in between the blood, as well as what they're calling the mesentery system, which is really looking at the container that surrounds every organ and system of your body. Kind of also separates, like, say, the rhythmic system from the metabolic digestive system, and it surrounds all the organs. So now we're beginning to really look at what I call the 7 regenerative life processes: breathing, warming, nutrition, circulation, maintenance, growth, maturation, and reproduction. And those are all those natural life forces that are happening when you're asleep. You go to sleep and the body goes into regeneration, and it supports all of the systems that I'm describing today, that are of major importance to preventing any imbalance in the body. So the immune system is a really grand system, and that is way bigger than just what we have defined it as at present. So we're going to be able to look as we move forward into these new systems that are being defined and understand their mechanism of action. And everybody's talking about the microbiome, and so I'm not going to go too into depth into that, but obviously the enteric nervous system is the 3rd nervous system that's been defined. And when you think about it and learn that 50% of us is bacteria and virus and other organisms, we're working with those to defend and support our well-being and health. So a lot of research on, and the connection between the brain and the gut is available for us to really begin to look at how to balance the microbiome. And then I'm defining the psychosomatic system as a regenerative system, which includes the nerve sense system, as well as the metabolic system. And we're able now to really look at stem cells and how we can regenerate the the nerve sense systems and the metabolic systems. But the piece that we don't hear a whole lot about, that I really want to go deeper into, is the soul, or how the will, the feelings, the thoughts affect the biology of the cell. And we know that they do. We did live cell research, and we can see that how a positive thought or a negative thought changes the dynamics in the cellular makeup. So, as well as, we've got lots of research on water, and we could take a thought or a feeling and embed it into the water, and the crystallization of the molecule of the water changes. So this has all been going on for the last 50 years, but we're now, I think, coming to the point that we really need a solution, in addition to, positive thinking and, all the wonderful things that have come out of the last 50 years. I think we have to go deeper, and we are able to go deeper as far as genetics, and then measuring the epigenetics when we make these lifestyle changes that we're all, this group is all in favor of, and knows that it works. So that's, I think, is a major key now, is that we can measure and monitor not only the chemistry the metabolic system, but we can also see genetic changes or epigenetic changes in our genetics by following different processes, which we'll be exploring together with Dr. A and others on this team. And the next system is the endocrine system. So we really, really need to understand hormones. And, as we were just speaking, there's a difference between men and women, and there's a difference as we go through the aging process, and we'd be able to measure and monitor that now, and then formulate very specific creams and powders specifically to the individual. So that's what I'm doing with the labs that I'm working with at present, being able to really look at 24-hour saliva and urine, and then really getting combining that with the genomic information of those metabolic pathways. So we're going to a very advanced system now of specification, and we'll be able to do the same thing with the plant-based medicines that we're able to do with nutrigenomics. So as we expand more and more on the canogenomics and work with really quality products, we'll be able to really start to see how to integrate those plant-based medicines. And that takes us to the last system that I'm inquiring into, which is the endocannabinoid system. So that, which is kind of a homeostatic system for all of the ones above. And I think that's the key to really beginning to understand what stress is. So, basically, stress is too much demand on the system. We have more demand and not enough supply. And one of those defense systems is burnt out, and we know numerous reasons how and why that burnout takes place, and especially in our times with so much uncertainty. That we call it the chronic stress cycle. So it comes from environmental and social stressors that are huge right now, chemical stressors, emotional stressors, mental stressors, genetic and epigenetic stressors, structural stressors, karmic stressors, and traumatic stressors. So now what we know, one of the things that we know a lot about is that trauma is imprinted into the genetics for many generations. So, we're coming to the table with a lot of already givens from, the DNA and RNA that we get through the multiple generations. And then on top of that, we come in with what I call the karmic stressors, which is if you understand the nature of the soul is more like what we might call the eternal kernel that lives in our heart, that enables us to kind of improve. So that's the object of the game, is to keep learning and developing and improving ourselves. And that's what we're doing. And understanding the traumatic stressors and the karmic stressors on top of all of the lifestyle stressors that we're under at present is really the job. Because, as we were speaking earlier, the other doctors agreed, it's intention. And which is really the nature of the will. And so there are many steps to getting to a place where you can access this inner world. But I came up with some, and I'll share that with you guys today, some really easy ways to begin to deal with the isolation and the distancing and the masks and the impoverishment of freedom that we're feeling, so we can deal with some of these stressors and increase our understanding and reduce the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety, the post-traumatic stress disorders that people are suffering from. And I think that's really where we're at now. We really need to collectively begin to look at how can we stop the impact, and then how can we actually strengthen and turn off this chronic stress cycle. So Just basically, we can go from fear to acts of courage, from anger to love, from anxiety to self-stress, from trauma to the healing tools for trauma, which we have many now. And also from a lot of people are expressing that they feel stuck, that they're like limited in this box, and what happened to their free will, what happened to freedom. So uh, I'm recommending my clients do a lot of creative expression, where through the arts, through movement, through gesture, through sound, through visualization, really developing a new empathic skills. Because now part of this closure that we're all going through is we're not only are we stuck by not being able to express in the old ways in the world, but we also are stuck in the household with patterns in partnership that haven't been resolved. And so here we go. We have an opportunity now to begin to go deeper and to begin to heal those patterns. And so we can prevent the genetic modification, both from the stress that we're under as well as from potential external immunizations, or how and then how to make that choice is something I think we really need to go much deeper into, because people need more information to really understand what does it mean to really have a healthy defense system. And a antigen or antibody is only one aspect, as I've just shown you. There's numerous pieces to the puzzle, but mostly our soul, our feelings, our thoughts, and our will to really meet whatever opportunity we're given, as not as a crisis, but as a gift. So that gift is available to all of us, and it comes through self-empathy. It starts with self-understanding and empowering yourself to go deep into what's living in the soma. And that's why it's called psychosomatic medicine. Obviously, it includes the neurology and the immunizations and all of the aspects that I just spoke of in the defense system. But the really deep understanding of how does that interpret itself into your body? How does that become kinesthetic empathy? And then how can you begin to reflect, to step out of your condition and to see it, so that you don't become it. So there's no doubt that everybody is flooded and overwhelmed with stress and uncertainty and fear and all of the other quality aspects of this moment in time. But you don't have to be stuck in it. You can take a step out of it, and you do that through imaginative empathy. You do that through creative empathy. So those are terms, but I wanted to kind of take a moment, and we could do it together. And those listeners that are with us, I just wanted to kind of give a practical application of the work. We understand a lot about the physiology of the body, and now we have all these new systems to explore and understand. New to medicine, not new to the body. So, but how do the soft skills, how do our feelings and our thoughts, and let's say where do we get the will to overcome these forces that want to push us down, that want to take away our freedom, whether they're internal or external? So we can do a lot about what's living inside of us. And I think that's a really important part of our times, is to really understand what we can do to activate that self-healing process, that the biopsychosomo cognitive, we can go on and on, system by system, they're all connected. So where we begin is we begin with scanning your body and just getting a sense, everybody who's listening or participating, if you'd like, just notice where you are in the present moment. You've gotten a lot of information from lots of brilliant people who have an incredible intent just to give and to serve humanity. And we're grateful for that, and to all of you, and to our hosts. And we're sitting here, or we're lying there, wherever you are, and just notice what's happening in your body. Now, if we talk about fear or anxiety or trauma or feeling stuck, just take one little experience. You don't need to, like, we're not gonna try and move mountains. I do provide, one-on-one consultation and group work and inner leadership training, but I just kind of wanted to give everybody some tools, starting with just, shaking your hands and moving around and kind of letting go of what you're feeling, because there's a lot that's coming at us that we don't know how to cope with, but we can trust this inner innate defense system that will empower us to do that. So choose one experience, one emotional state, or don't take a big huge pattern, because I don't want to blow up I just want you to have like an initial experience, and then from there we can go deeper if you so choose. So one piece of the puzzle right now that is really causing stress, one of those stressors, whether it's manifesting on a physical level as a condition or not, or if it's just emotional or mental, or it's relational with somebody, that you feel like you're not understanding one another. And just take a moment and check inside and feel what your body is telling you. Notice where you might feel some density or darkness, that feeling of stuckness, and put your finger on it, or put your hand on it, or do something to say, I hear you, I see you, I know that something is right there, it just doesn't feel right. So that's really just sensing in. And now take your hands and gesture that feeling, whether it's contracting you or causing you to excarnate and get out of your body, or if it's, or if any, so just gesture it with your hands. They say that the soul lives in your hands, which is really interesting if you start to think about how we express ourselves from our heart into our hands when we speak. So that gesture is available, and it's three-dimensional. It's living in the body. It doesn't have to be anything that you believe in or conceptualize. I want to take the work out of just concept and bring it into form, so we can really make huge changes in the stress level. Okay, so you gestured it, you moved it, you've embodied it. Because when we speak empowerment, we're really talking about being more embodied, having more power to deal with the stressors, and to enhance our natural defense systems, so that we can understand and grow and transform and learn and keep healing. So we have a gesture, we have movement, it said something to you. What did it mean to you? And if you have paper and pencil, you could just write it down. What did that mean to you? What did that gesture feel like? What did it say to you? So we're beginning to, as we do in meditation, observation or phenomenological understanding of that's happening to you, but that's not 100% of who you are. You can step out of that and you can observe that experience and what did it mean to you. And then the next level is naming it. call it what it is: fear, anger, resentment, uncertainty, doubt, stuckness, whatever you want to name it, or love, light. I'm not focusing only on the negative, because we can resource positive emotions, positive thoughts as well. But usually what is causing traumatic imprints and ongoing physiological conditions, and has the chronic stress cycle which enables all of our wonderful remedies not to work, because when the body is flooded with cortisol, it's in fight or flight mechanism, and it can't recognize anything other than, get me out of danger. So we really need to do these, relaxation processes, meditation, visualization, breath work, body work, to really, support this more creative approach of having empathy toward yourself. It's okay to feel everything you're feeling, as well as to begin to extend that empathy to others. Not, because we're living in such close quarters, I think it's really a good idea to learn to give one another a lot of understanding and space, because everyone is reacting differently to the level of uncertainty. So there you go. You've identified something that is blocking you, or lessening your ability to be fully empowered. And you can gesture it, you can see it in your hands, you can see it in your movement. You can add music to it if you want, and do that for a few minutes. Also very therapeutic. You can give it meaning by naming it. And now you can decide what you want to do about it. So we talked earlier today about, well, there's fear, and maybe fear is not such a bad thing. If there's a fire and you have a fear instinct, it's really there to serve you. So we can love the fear, which we talked about already, to transform it. We can meet it as the beast that it is, but we don't have to become it. So by being able to objectify, and not from your head, but from your body. That's the shift. It needs to come from the soma. That's the deep work. Everyone's saying, do deep work. Yes, do deep work. But what is the deep work? The deep work is not only in your thinking. We really need to somatize the healing and go deep into the body through sound, movement, gesture, visualization, dramatization, the arts, to begin to really transform those genetic and traumatic imprints that are holding us back. So I know a lot of people are very conscious and are doing yoga and meditation and great things and eating well, and yet they're still challenged. And so I would like to bring what I call the regeneration process, this work of really beginning to meet the psyche and all of these biological, chemical, genetic systems that we can measure and monitor, with the soft skills, the somatic based self-care tools that will enable you and everyone who's listening to begin to really let go of those aspects that are no longer serving them. Okay, so that's the big picture. I think we understand, and that we have agreement that empowerment, it obviously comes through taking really good care of ourselves, and that would mean the body, the soul, and then the spirit. And if we do that and use the tools that we all carry, because we each have different parts of the puzzle. But I know that with the Jade platform, we'll be able to really look at all these different aspects, from the different ways of testing in the lab, as well as just the wearables that you have, and et cetera, to begin to really balance your natural immune systems. Okay. Any questions or thoughts or?
Thank you, Dr. Golda. Yes, we do have a couple of questions, and I appreciate you staying with us this afternoon. Oh, just so amazing. What we're talking about through the empowerment process will also be discussed in the next segment, which is moving from the head to the heart, which is going into the body, embodying.
Yeah.
This is exactly what Dr. Golda is talking about.
Yeah.
So, Tasha, I think you have a question.
Well, Dr. Golda is so amazing that she answered all the questions that I had. But
Oh, good.
I just, first of all, I just want to say again, as always, I'm very honored to share this space with you. And I always enjoy interacting with you and having a chance to talk to you. And I think that for me, as well as many people in 2020, whether your life was in upheaval, in a positive way, I'm very blessed, very fortunate, that for me, it was just a career change, massive career change. But for other people, there were some other stressors that were in their life. And for me, um, just like everyone else, it was a constant change every single day. And so as you spoke so eloquently earlier about, we have these different modalities for grounding and relieving stress. And the things that worked for me before, I could no longer utilize. Um, I could travel, but it was difficult because my kids now are at home all the time in online school. And so I couldn't, for me, my healing is to go out into nature. So I would go on nature hikes, um, gardening and things like that. And so I really appreciate that you gave people an alternative way to ground themselves, to find a new modality for healing, because what we're talking about is harmony with self. And that what I learned, I think the biggest lesson that I learned is that it's going to change as you age. It's going to change with your experience. And so the modalities that I had before, I could no longer use. They were outdated, if you will, for my soul. And so I've been kind of on this new journey of, well, what are my new modalities? I have my old one. I do have some like journaling, self reflection, going within, though, meditation, those kinds of things. But now it's what else is there or what else is out there for me. And so I really appreciate that you have brought this to the forefront, because that's actually what I was going to ask was, okay, well, for someone like me who in an essence has to leave certain parts of my old self behind and kind of walk this path into a new self, what is it that I can do, or what is it that other people can do that are finding themselves in somewhat of a limbo? And
Yeah.
so I really appreciate that you took us through that practice, and that, again, cannerworldexpo.com will have all of these videos within the next couple of weeks. So if you can get on, you can watch this video over and over again, just as I do, from the canner worlds that are the expos that we've done before. So again, I just wanted to just say thank you so much for bringing that into this space and giving people like me that are kind of in limbo an additional resource to use to stay grounded, especially as it seems 2021 is just a continuation of 2020. So
Right, right. And we need new tools.
yes, we need new tools.
That's yeah, at this point we're in a different place.
Hmm.
And we really need tools. And I love that you bring up nature, because my son and I, David, we've been working in the garden a lot, and doing what we're calling plant art. So but with connecting it to these imprints that are coming up, right, I call them toxic imprints, because they're not key, they're holding us back from taking those next steps forward. So you can use the plant kingdom, as well as the arts and movement and gesture and sound, to as therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Dancing is the thing that I started again. I was dancing, but now I'm dancing with a different intention.
right. Right. And it's that connecting of the mind and the body, but using all the senses.
Mhm.
So the work that I practice is based on Rudolf Steiner's work, and he speaks of 15 senses, not 5 or 6. So these higher senses also need to be activated, and so there's a huge understanding of something called spiritual science that humanity has always heard and understood, that
Mhm.
it really needs to be brought, I think, back into our daily lives.
Yes, agreed.
And
Absolutely.
right, and these kind of very practical skills that moms can do with their kids to deal with some of this stress, right?
Yeah,
The more
absolutely.
creative side, which really will then, move us. And I think at this point we don't we know we're headed to a new reality, that we've crossed a threshold. I say humanity has crossed the threshold.
Yes.
Humanity on a soul level has become conscious, which is, but we might look like we're a minority, but the truth is that the cultural creative movement in the United States is 100 million people, and globally is 1 billion. And how we identify that cohort is we look at what their healthcare choices are. Many of them are into the types of alternative medicine that we talked about today.
Right.
They're definitely into empowering women to step forward equally, as well as the primary concern is the well-being of the planet. And so that real and they're into lifelong learning, and so I think that's the actually our what brings us all together is our interest in educating, is setting up social systems for families and for leaders to begin to really empower humanity to create new ways, because that's the transition. We have the opportunity to really step into a regenerative lifestyle.
One of
Thank you so much,
the attendees
Dr.
is,
Golda.
oh, sorry.
Thank you, Annie. Good
One
to
of
see
the
you.
attendees was asking what's the best place to follow you. So I follow you on Instagram, but is there another better place to follow you?
If someone wants to meet with me directly, drgolda@gmail.com, and I will respond quickly. That's my direct email at this point. We are, well, Jade has done an amazing expansion over the last year, because we began to move into countries as the platform. So we're working with Panama and Colombia and Mexico, as well as states. So we're integrating the electronic healthcare systems in those countries and states, to be able to work with the regulators to manage and monitor nutraceuticals and other plant-based medicines. So we've taken advantage of this time to continue to develop and expand and really hear the needs of the market. So I think we're really looking at how can we, as a collective body, support these new medicines, and with these new systems that we now have research on, and bring that to this new reality as we come out of the contraction. We're going to move into an expansion, and it's the cultural creatives, the more conscious souls, that are really going to guide the future. So I'm grateful to be part of that and to share with each of you. And
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Golda. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Want to thank you for being with us from the beginning as well. You have been a part of Canna World Expo, and we are so grateful. I have just felt you through this presentation. It's like, oh my gosh, it's amazing how, like we started off at the beginning about how we're able, Dr. A is on here with the quantum entanglements and, all that wonderful stuff. And it's such a blessing to have you. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
And we look
Thank
forward
you. It is my pleasure, and I look forward to really going deep. So now is the moment. I really think that we need to really, coalesce with others of like-mindedness and like-heartedness to really begin to give solutions to humanity, not just problems.
Yes. Thank you.